We now have enough tools to introduce several interesting examples of ideals and to start asking interesting questions about them. Remember that an ideal of a ring is an additive subgroup that acts as a black hole for multiplication. We also saw that a field is characterized by having only the trivial ideals 0 and the entire ring. Next, every ideal of these two rings is principal because of division with remainder. Remember, a principal ideal means the set of all multiples of a given element. The reason why we started talking about ideals in the first place is because the kernel of any ring homomorphism is an ideal. So, now that we know about ideals in these three rings, we should be able to say something interesting about homomorphisms from these rings to some other ring. All three answers are basic and frequently useful. So see what you can find. To begin with, try to find how many homomorphisms there can be from Z to a given ring R. Let's consider possible homomorphisms from Z to some given ring R. Now, 1 has to go to 1 and therefore 2 has to go to 1 plus 1. Similarly, any positive integer k has to go to 1 plus 1 taken k times and therefore minus k has to go to minus of that. Therefore, if a homomorphism exists, then it is uniquely decided. Now, I can simply take this as the definition of a set map and check that it indeed defines a ring homomorphism. This check boils down to understanding how Z works as a ring, specifically how multiplication there can be understood in terms of repeated addition. So you should convince yourself that this works. At the end, I have obtained a unique homomorphism from Z to any given ring R, called the characteristic map of R. Okay, so now this map has a kernel which has to be an ideal of Z, and so therefore it is of the type nz, where n is a uniquely decided non-negative integer. This non-negative integer is what I call the characteristic of R. I can unpack this definition somewhat and give it more concretely in an equivalent form that you should check. So, the characteristic is the least positive integer n such that in the ring n is equal to 0. N in the ring simply means 1 plus 1 taken n times. For example, the characteristic of Z mod nz is n. Now, it may happen that 1 plus 1 so on will never become 0. For example, for rational numbers. In that case, I call the characteristic to be 0. And you can check that I get the same definition as here. As a small exercise, I have asked you to find out possible values of characteristics of an integral domain. And here is a much more interesting problem. So please try to do both of them now. Before we discuss the exercises, a note of caution. If I am thinking of group homomorphisms from Z, then the generator 1 can go to any element in the target group. But for a ring homomorphism, 1 has to go to 1. So it is important to keep in mind what kind of homomorphism I am talking about. In this course, it will generally be a ring homomorphism, and I may even say ring map or just a map. So please keep the context in mind. Okay, so the characteristic of an integral domain can only be 0, for example Z, or a prime number, for example Z mod pz. It cannot be a composite number mn, because in that case both m and n would be non-zero in R, but their product would be 0, contradicting the fact that R is supposed to be a domain. In the next exercise, I start with the unique homomorphism from Z to some ring, in this case just the inclusion into complex numbers, and extend it to the polynomial ring by sending x wherever I like by means of the substitution principle. The exercise asks me to find the kernel of this extended map when the target of x is square root of 2. So let's look. I notice that x square minus 2 is in the kernel. So my claim is that the kernel is only the principal ideal generated by x square minus 2, nothing bigger. So remember the parentheses notation for the principal ideal. To prove this, let's take some arbitrary f in the kernel. Now, because x square minus 2 is monic, I can divide f by that and get a smaller remainder, which therefore must be of the form ax plus b, where a and b are integers. Now I plug in square root of 2 into this equation and see that a times square root of 2 plus b must be 0. But this means that square root of 2 would have to be a rational number unless a and b are both 0. So therefore this is what must be the case, and I deduce that there was no remainder and f after all is a multiple of x square minus 2. This argument should be familiar by now, but notice that for it to work here, I needed to know what kind of number square root of 2 was. So if I replace it by some other numbers, then I may need to reevaluate this argument. So please check these possibilities one by one and see if you can find the kernel. Okay, this gets interesting. In all three cases, the kernel still turns out to be a principal ideal and the generators are easy to guess, but now different methods are required. When x goes to I, the kernel is generated by x square plus 1 by essentially the same argument. You only have to note that for integers a and b, the complex number ai plus b is 0 only when a and b are both 0. When x goes to 1/3, the kernel is generated by 3x minus 1. But in this case, I cannot use long division because 3 is not a unit in integers. So I have to find some other way. We will see how to get around this difficulty, but for now you should really try to do this on your own. When x goes to nth root of 2, my guessed generator is x to the n minus 2. But here I have a different difficulty. I can divide by this monic polynomial, but the remainder may have quite a large degree, anything up to n minus 1. So the fact that nth root of 2 is irrational is not really enough to complete the argument, and I have to find some other tool. We will see how to do this in the next chapter, but for now, see if you can try to prove a general result. Show that regardless of where I send x, the kernel of the resulting homomorphism is always a principal ideal. Okay, so let's move on and consider homomorphisms from fields and f of x. In general, there are many such homomorphisms. But take a moment and see if you can say anything about the kernel of such homomorphisms. Okay, homomorphisms from a field f are always injective because the kernel has to be 0. The reason is that the kernel is a proper ideal of the field f, and we know that the only such ideal is 0. Two comments. One, you can do this proof by hand from first principles and maybe you should try. But you need to attain a state of mind in which this proof appears natural to you. In this state of mind, homomorphisms and ideals are your friends, and so you should feel free to call upon them whenever required without hesitation. Second comment, because of injectivity, homomorphisms between fields are often called field embeddings, and they are important in Galois theory. In fact, the foundations that we are building right now serve as a springboard to launch into Galois theory, as I hope you will see. Okay, now given a field homomorphism from f to r, just like we did for z, we can extend it to the polynomial ring by sending x wherever I like. But now the kernel of this extended homomorphism is automatically a principal ideal because every ideal in fx is principal. So in this way, it may be easier to work over a field. Contrast this with what happened over z. Now in this ring, not all ideals are principal. As we will see shortly, this is a more complicated ring. But in this particular situation of homomorphisms into complex numbers, the ideals that arose as kernels we said were always principal. So maybe something interesting is going on. And this result suggests that perhaps this situation is related to working over a field. So the question is, which field? And a natural guess is that this should be the field of rational numbers. So let us set this up carefully. Take the natural inclusion from rational numbers to complex numbers and extend it to the polynomial ring by sending x somewhere. Now, I can regard this map as from Qx or from the subring Zx, and in either case I can try to calculate the kernel. For the Zx situation, I have already discussed what happens. So what you should do now is try to solve the same problems for Qx and see how the arguments compare. So please do that now. Over Q, the kernels are principal ideals generated by the same elements as before. When x goes to root 2 or I, even the proof stays the same. When x goes to 1/3, the situation is easier over Q because 1/3 is a rational number. So the kernel of this evaluation map is the principal ideal generated by x minus 1/3. Notice that 3x minus 1 generates the same ideal over Q because 3 is now a unit. This suggests that the answer over Q may be helpful in justifying the answer over Z, which we were unable to do earlier, so please try that. When x goes to the nth root of 2, I know that the kernel is a principal ideal, but it is still not easy to justify that it is generated by x to the n minus 2. It will turn out that working over Z and working over Q can help each other. So we will see some tools to compare the two situations in the next chapter. Moving on, let's see some examples of non-principal ideals. I1 is the set of all polynomials in two variables over a field whose constant term is 0. So first observe that this is an ideal and then show that it is not principal. To discuss this ideal and other examples, let's first make a useful and natural definition. This is going to be formally analogous to the definition of the vector subspace spanned by a bunch of vectors or the subgroup generated by a bunch of elements. So suppose I am given a subset capital A of a ring R. I then take the set of all linear combinations of these elements by multiplying them with arbitrary elements of the given ring R. I call this set the ideal generated by the given subset, and I denote it in this fashion. Principal ideals are a special case when capital A consists of a single element. I can make this definition work even when capital A is infinite by remembering that any linear combination is by definition a finite sum. You should quickly check two things. One, that this set actually does form an ideal because it is closed under addition and because it absorbs multiplication by any element of R because of distributivity. Next, it is the smallest ideal of R containing the given set. In practice, ideals are frequently specified in this fashion. For example, you can easily check that this ideal I1 is the same as the one generated by x and y. We are asked to show that I1 is not a principal ideal, so suppose it is generated by some g. Because x and y are both in the ideal, g must divide x as well as y. If you think that there is nothing left to prove, then I suggest that the feeling may be somewhat premature because this ring is defined in terms of symbols x and y. Therefore, I have to explore the consequences of these statements symbolically. This is not difficult, but it needs to be done. So I suggest that you find out formally all factors of x and complete the proof. X has degree 1, so any factor of x has to be either a non-zero scalar a or something of degree 1, which then has to have the form ax. But g cannot equal a because a is not even in the ideal, nor can it equal ax because ax does not divide y, which is a requirement. So I got a contradiction and the proof is done. Note that any factor of x is either a unit or unit times x itself. In other words, x works like a prime number in this ring, as does y. Now, this ring does have unique factorization into primes, but the proof cannot work like homework 0. For one, you do not have long division, and also note that the GCD of x and y is 1, but 1 is not their linear combination. So this ring is harder. We will see how to prove the unique factorization in the next chapter. More examples of non-principal ideals. In is generated by all monomials of total degree n in two variables. You can show that this is not principal by modifying the earlier argument. For example, consider factors of x to the n. They cannot contain y because then the largest power of y cannot cancel out. Said another way, if we regard x to the n as a polynomial in a single variable y with coefficients in fx, then it is a constant and so it has to factor only in terms of constants. Next, consider the ring zy. This is similar to the ring fxy because z is analogous to fx and I am adding the variable y in both cases. Here the analog of in is obtained by replacing x by a prime number p. A much more interesting exercise is to show that either one of these ideals has to have minimum n plus 1 elements to generate it. So you can take this as a small challenge. Another challenge. Read this excellent worked out example in Artin. It is also about an ideal in this ring that arises as the kernel of some homomorphism. Generalize this exercise by replacing the exponents 2 and 3 to arbitrary values. I have listed here all the examples and results that we discussed involving ideals, including what we could not prove. I cannot overemphasize the importance of not just the statements, but the thinking that went into them. I strongly urge you to take these one by one and redo the arguments on your own until they begin to flow effortlessly. Good luck.